Alright, so excuse me if there's some background sound, okay, this middle of the day, and I usually do this about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, alright? This is Diesel We the People News, okay? I'm not going to go through all this other stuff, alright? I'm not an attorney in this video, and I are not giving legal advice. Do your own research, be responsible for yourself, and by gosh, self-govern yourself and quit depending on all these other people. Now, alright, so this is more along the lines when people watch videos about sovereign citizens challenging jurisdictions. Oh my goodness. Well, I thought, let me do some research and see if I can actually find someone that's done case laws on this, because I'm assuming they have, right? If I found it, I'm sure somebody else found it and made a YouTube about it. So therefore, let's see what they have to say about this.
It's fine, knock yourself out, be a slave if you want, but not all of us want to be a slave. So a jurisdiction where a court failed to observe safeguards, it amounts to a denial of due process of law, and the court is deprived of juris, okay? That's subject matter jurisdiction. When they deny due process, they...
We're going to stop right there for already. I apologize, okay? So, when a car pulls you over and you challenge the cops for not having a license or whatever the case may be, and that officer arrests you and take you directly to jail, that is lack of due process, okay? There has not been due process, so therefore, there was no jurisdiction, and it does not exist. But because we don't challenge it correctly, then we just assume with all these other videos out there that actually have jurisdiction. That's the reason why I'm bringing this video up, right? To show you there is case laws out there saying that they must tell you what jurisdiction is. So remember this, when you get pulled over and you get arrested and all that, you demand 3 times to the officer to go directly to the magistrate. Okay, and then the magistrate figures out if there is probable cause, y'all. The officers don't get to decide there's probable cause. He can assume probable cause, but he don't get to dictate there's probable cause. I assume there's probable cause, so I must need to take you to the magistrate right here, right now, before jail, because innocent people is not allowed to spend any time in jail, y'all. And if you're innocent on some of these things, then how did an innocent person end up in captivity? So think about it. Innocent until proven guilty. Well, you got to go see the magistrate to be able to get that due process in there. Just saying.
They lose subject matter jurisdiction. So really, challenging in personam jurisdiction is a diversion. Okay, so you don't challenge in personam jurisdiction. You can sit there and say I'm not a corporation and all that stuff. You're essentially challenging in personam jurisdiction. But really, the real solution is to challenge the subject matter jurisdiction, because they're denying due process, and you got to recognize when they deny due process. They do it all the time. It's like they can't do anything without denying due process, but I think also they do it on purpose, because then what happens is you consented. You're supposed to know the law, and you consented by letting us deny you due process. And so, again, we have to understand when they're denying due process. Not a reaction by any judge is an exercise of this judicial function. It is not a judicial function for a judge to commit an intentional tort, even though the tort occurs in the courthouse. When a judge acts as a trespasser of the law, when a judge does not follow the law, when the judge loses subject matter jurisdiction, and the judge's orders are void and of no legal force or effect. Okay, so again, if he's a military commissioner, then he's not a judge. Okay, and so it's a denial of due process right off the bat. Okay, because he's not.
And I had, a couple of videos ago, we talked about foreign judges, right? Well, they didn't notify you that there's a foreign judge. So again, even if they're a foreign judge, they need to let us know with our rights of due process of what jurisdiction are we under. So are we under that foreign jurisdiction? They need to let us know. That is our right to due process. Okay? Justice delayed, justice is denied, due process been violated or ignored or impeded.
Not neutral or unbiased. I mean, there's all sorts of things. When they deny due process, they lose subject matter jurisdiction. Subject matter jurisdiction can be challenged at any time, even on appeal. You can challenge subject matter jurisdiction on appeal. And the reason is because it's a void judgment. Watch my video about void judgments. Once jurisdiction is challenged, everything stops until jurisdiction is proven. Defense of lack of subject matter jurisdiction over the subject matter may be raised at any time, even on appeal. Jurisdiction can be challenged at any time, and jurisdiction, once challenged, cannot be assumed and must be decided. Once challenged, jurisdiction...
Did you hear that? So, when the judge says, well, I just have jurisdiction, these attorneys out there is just telling everybody on YouTube that they have jurisdiction automatically. Nope, right there. Case. Write it down. And all these are summaries, okay? If you know how to read case law and dictate through the pages and understand how that operates, great. But if you don't, this is one of the easier ways to understand what they're saying, and you can do this video and read the case law and say, okay, I can see where this is at. Alright? By the way, the prosecutor actually has the burden, not the judge. So we all have a tendency to keep asking for the judge what jurisdiction I'm under. But it's the prosecutor's responsibility to actually tell the judge. He's supposed to be a mediocre out there, right? He's supposed to be servicing justice, but he's supposed to be up in the middle while I'm and me and the prosecutor is supposed to be lashing it out. The judge is supposed to be listening to both sides, so he don't even have any say really what jurisdiction I'm under. Now you got to actually go to the prosecutor and say, you got verifiable proof of jurisdiction? Did you go through the process, the due process, to get such jurisdiction? Right? When you get pulled over, you know, you go to magistrate. All right? But that paperwork still needs to be in order with that officer, send it to the prosecutor. Because the prosecutor still got to get jurisdiction. The judge is giving okay for you to go to jail due to probable cause. But the prosecutor itself has got to whatever that word is.
It cannot be assumed, it must be proved to exist. However late this objection to jurisdiction has been made or may be made in any cause in an inferior or appellate court of the United States, it must be considered and decided before any court can move one further step in the cause, as any movements is necessarily the exercise of jurisdiction.
Family court, y'all. Inferior courts. Family court. Alright? The Attorney General must prove, because in the 4D program it's all about the Attorney General, not the prosecutor. Well, that Attorney General is making the claim. He needs to prove that there's jurisdiction. That judge is still not allowed to do it. Now, if he does do it, you know, you got to get the case dismissed and all that kind of stuff. But 9 times out of 10, prosecutor, like on the one I'm helping in Odessa, the Attorney General never showed up. The claimant was never there. So that was automatically, should have been dismissed by that fucking judge.
That's U.S. Supreme Court. Where jurisdiction is contested, the burden of establishing it rests upon the plaintiff. The burden of proving jurisdiction rests upon the party asserting it. So that means the prosecutor. He has to prove jurisdiction. The judge cannot decide jurisdiction. The burden is on the prosecutor to prove jurisdiction. The court cannot give itself jurisdiction. Proceeding without jurisdiction is not something that is considered discretionary. It's not discretionary for them to do that. There's a lot of things that are discretionary, but that is not one of them. A universal principle as old as the law is that the proceeding of a court without jurisdiction are a nullity, and its judgments therein are without effect either on person or property. So that's really the judgment, or these habeas corpuses that I do for people, and to get them out of jail, is it's a void judgment. Okay, and on top of that, it's not discretionary for the court to deny the habeas corpus when it is a void judgment. And so actually, this friend of mine that I'm trying to currently working on getting him out of jail, the guy that was practicing medicine without a license, or claimed that he was practicing medicine allegedly. Anyways, the judge dismissed, or at least the word we got. We haven't got somebody called up to court, and the court told that somebody that the case had been dismissed for failing to exhaust his state remedies. And I don't think that's a valid reason, and so we can appeal it. But the problem is that once you appeal it, the decision for the Texas Supreme Court will come down anyway, so it'll be a moot discussion. But that's what I'm going to tell that guy, is we can appeal that decision. But let's wait until we get it in writing. They haven't even given us anything. This is all hearsay at this point. You see what I'm saying? So, anyways, let's keep going. A departure by a court from those recognized and established requirements of law, however close apparent adherence to mere form in the methods of procedure, which has the effect of depriving one of a constitutional right, is an excess of jurisdiction. You need to understand when they're denying due process, okay? And when the judge, when you ask a question and the judge answers it instead of the prosecutor, the judge is working for the prosecutor. That's a denial of due process by definition. Okay, the judge has got nothing to say. He's supposed to be sitting there playing stupid at worst, and at best he should be honoring his oath and protecting your rights. But they're not interested in that. They're nothing but a bunch of bought and paid for whores. Don't get me going. You're going to get me going. The burden shifts to the court to prove jurisdiction. A court has no jurisdiction to determine its own jurisdiction. For a basic issue in any case before a tribunal is its power to act, and a court must have the authority to decide that question in the first instance. So they don't have authority to say, oh, we got jurisdiction. Full. A court cannot confer jurisdiction where none existed, and cannot make a void proceeding valid. It is clear and well-established law that a void order can be challenged in any court. It's collateral. You can go after them collaterally, which means you can file a separate lawsuit. You can do anything you want. It's a nullity. Thus, where a judicial tribunal has no jurisdiction of the subject matter on which it assumes to act, its proceedings are absolutely void in the fullest sense of the term. It didn't exist. It is nothing. Ab initio. Right. Judge loses his absolute immunity from damage actions only when he acts in clear absence of all jurisdiction or performance of an act which is not judicial in nature. Okay, so we're coming after you, Judge. Are you ready for that? Of course, you're going to have to get his bar member buddies to go along with it, and that's what he's banking on. There is no...
We're going to pause it there to make these videos short. This will be the People News.